Welcome to the Warrior Gamer Headquarters podcast. Lieutenant Colonel Ken Crigliano, your co-host. Welcome to Warrior Gamer Headquarters podcast, episode 9. And we are on the 9s today, baby. So Bilal wanted to talk about flow states, and it was such a compelling speech last week, or show last week, that April has decided to totally change her entire research trajectory and is thinking about just studying flow states. Now, is this scuttlebutt true, or what's the situation here?
It is true. I was asking myself, what's my problem? What am I dragging? Why am I not done yet? And one of the things I think is I need something that I really, truly, deeply care about. And it's definitely esports. But the aspect of esports that I love is watching how it impacts people's lives, and how when they drop into flow state, that brings such a joy. When they have a place to be that is stress-free, that they can forget about all the tests like Bilal's taking right now, that they can just walk away from the whole world and find that relief and that pleasure. And, life's about being happy at the end of the day and doing the things that make you happy. And when we've got these kids that are, college and they're stressing out, when you give them free time, so many of them, when they have nothing in the world that compels them and they can do anything they want, so many of them choose gaming, some sort of gaming. And I know that's true for more people than those just in my college. And I want to understand where the relief comes and how we can capitalize that and how we can augment that and how we can really get people in flow state more often without, necessarily expecting them to be a Michael Jordan or someone else. But, flow state happens when you're playing video games as well as it does when you're painting or drawing or writing. So I was trying to understand the effect of flow state on collegiate esports programs. That's what I was toying around with.
Okay, so our show is getting a lot more traction, and people are going to be tuning in to this show as their first one. So what I've been told to do is sort of help people familiarize themselves with us and some of the previous topics we talked about. So Bilal is in med school right now, and he is in what the SEALs call Hell Week, but his is multiple years long, unfortunately. So that's why we'll crack on Bilal, because he's doing all the tests and everything. And April is leading the industry in the academic world in esports and gaming. And really what you got here, besides me, you have an awesome group of folks arranged on here who are doing cutting edge stuff. And so we talked about flow state, but do you want to maybe just do a quick 2-liner about what it is, what flow state is, so we have everyone on the same page?
I define flow state as a state of mind where you're performing at your best without any distractions. One sentence. I think that pretty much encapsulates it.
Okay. All right. Well, that's good.
There's research that adds, there's a couple of really specific things that happen when you do hit flow state. Time doesn't seem like time is moving at the same rate. We wake up 9 hours have passed and you didn't even notice. And there's some really specific things that happen when you are in flow state that the psychologists can measure. So it's not, that's why I was thinking it might work well for, to add that element of I was toying between flow state and just happiness is too general, but to give people a chance to understand what puts them in just an absolute, joy. Like for you, I bet it's like running or being, winning all of the medals behind you. You should introduce yourself too, because you are awesome.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it. I was brought into the show because I have a background in physical sports, and I've achieved a pretty high level of achievement with a lot of work but I was brought up on games. And so I love both industries. I love kind of comparing them. Now, I did just ask, I was looking off camera for a little bit, but I did ask ChatGPT what is flow state. And so for folks who are in the technology world, in esports and gaming, who don't know what ChatGPT is because you're under a rock, it is a groundbreaking AI system that you can ask it all kinds of questions, and it is actually very impressive. So April hit it right on the head. In full involvement, enjoyment, energized focus, heightened level of productivity and creativity, and experiencing a state of optimal performance. So that's pretty cool. And by the way, if anything we stand here you don't know, just log on to ChatGPT, ask it a question, and you'll get your answer. So we nailed it.
It's the clarity and the sense of there's no contradiction in your thoughts. You're ready to go. You're reeling. You're just joyful and blissful, as Joseph Campbell used to say, find your bliss. But so many people are busy slogging through, worrying about, everything else, that finding your bliss seems very abstract. So that's why I'm thinking if we can study flow state and esports, something that's not abstract, something that's very concrete, you get your high scores right there, you get instant feedback. That might help us get more people into flow state.
Yeah. So Bilal, I have a question for you, which is, so how many tests have you taken since being in grad school?
How many? Oh,
yes. What do you think? Just kind of an estimate.
I mean, it's hard to estimate. I'd say if we're counting quizzes and then tests, 60 plus, probably.
Okay. So how many of those do you think you went in experiencing flow kind of right off the bat?
I'd say most of them.
Wow.
Yeah, most of them. I think there were a few where I was just having a rough patch and it was a little bit more difficult to get into a flow state. But I find that, when I go into an exam, I just know, hey, I know what I know, what I don't know, whatever, who cares? I'm just going to go in, do my best, give it all, 110% intensity. This is like my 2-3 hours. Sometimes the exams are even 4 hours, doesn't matter.
Gosh.
Give it all and just go home. That's it. Yeah, that's all you can do. So why focus on what I don't know and what I'm stressed about and just mentally prepare myself? It really starts, when you wake up, to what extent do you change your routine? Are you rushing out of bed? Are you not feeling well rested? Or do you have all the juice that you need to go when you drive to campus or walk to campus? What are you thinking of? Are you just thinking, oh my God, the test is up, or are you just thinking, okay, I'm going to go in and do this test? What are you doing before you get inside the lecture room? A lot of people around me are checking their notes and discussing things last minute. I usually just sit down, I put my hood up and I just nap. I don't talk to anybody because I don't need that stress, right? I could just do my own thing and say, okay, you're stressed. Okay, cool. I'll just walk away from you. I'm just going to go to my seat, go to my assigned seat, put in the exam password, start doing the exam and get out. Don't talk to anybody. That's it. That's all I'm doing. And so I think that has helped me relieve a lot of stress, because when I'm in that flow state, I'm not thinking about the failures. If I see the failures, I can improve upon them, but I'm not thinking about the what ifs. I'm thinking about the what is. And that's the important part about flow state. And I think a lot of that does come down to gaming. I mean, that's where you really get it from. I think gaming is an easy environment where you can get that because it is distraction free. It is an escape from a lot of the real world. And so it is a bit easier to access the flow state there. But I think the ease of accessing the flow state there is a good training to help access flow states elsewhere.
Okay, so I'll throw a reference back to, I don't remember what number the episode was, but when we had Sam from Level X, he made an interesting comment where he said he deals with the medical community because his unbelievable app that you can simulate the most incredible surgical procedures and it tests you and quizzes you and everything. Watch the episode. It's amazing. So it's interesting that you're living proof where you're walking into these tests, experiencing flow. And another reference back to, I think it was our previous one, maybe two back, where you said like your gaming experience is more solitary kind of experience. So it makes sense to me that you're walking into the test and you're like, okay, look, these humanoids cause me more stress. I'm going to just put my hoodie on and just like get in, get it done, and get out. So do you think that those things are, synergistic, that you're bringing those into, your experiences?
Oh, definitely. They're quite related, actually. So a lot of the games that I play, when in school and it gets really busy, I don't often have time to play PC games, so I'll play games on my iPad. What I'll do, literally before exams, we're in the exam room, they're telling us, oh, get your stuff ready, clear out your whiteboards. We're going to do a deep breathing exercise. I'm sitting there playing my games on my iPad. That's it. No, that's just what I do. I do what I do. I don't mind everything else. It's all distractions. That's taking me away from my flow state. I have my flow state and I'm just going to go with it. That's it.
So is this like your version of doodling? Because I will talk about the research behind doodling.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So April, do you know the research behind doodling?
I don't. I'd love to learn.
Yeah, so there's a really good book called What Happened to You, and Oprah Winfrey's on it, and a gentleman named Dr. Perry. Bilal, if you haven't read this thing, 100% you should check it out. I think you'd really like it. But there's a human function that some folks are trying to add to fight, flight, freeze, a thing called disassociation, and they're trying to add a couple more. But basically, doodling is a disassociation where you're creating an activity with your hands and your brain. And there's something magical. And I think even Thomas Jefferson talked about this, where he said there's just something magical about writing and thinking. And he was a doodler too, but doodling actually like increases creativity, hones your ability to get into the flow. And I think what Bilal is talking about is one of maybe the first evidences that there's a new version of doodling, which is like being on these games that and I'm willing to bet like these might be similar to like a Tetris kind of, 2-3 minute gaming, doing some kind of puzzle thing or something, right? Is this true? Or
I love that, Ken. So my research question could potentially be, again, our podcast is such an influence on me. Does esports hone your ability to get into flow state? And that would be an interesting, because so many of my kids do it too, Bilal, right before I say my kids, they're my esports students at Illinois Tech. But right before big hard engineering tests, I see them on their phones, mobile gaming, they're talking to each other, or they're in their own mind. And I think that's another component of like both you, Ken, and Bilal are able to focus and to be happy in your own space, in your own mind. You've got X number of miles to run, you're going to run them no matter what. And Bilal, you've got X number of hours to study, you're going to study no matter. There's nothing that's going to distract you from hitting your goals. And I think, that clarity, that focus, that drive, all of that leads to flow state. And they're same with my esports students. There's nothing that stops them from putting in the hours they need to put in to get as good as they want to get.
So it's really is interesting, because where I was going with Dr. Perry in the book is that my wife is a school teacher, and even with that, I respect everything that they have to do, they go through, but our school design most certainly can be better. We get kids in a room, we force them all to kind of like level out. And unfortunately, many times they have to sort of teach to the lowest level. And the disassociation of doodling, a lot of kids will be in class, they're doodling, they're daydreaming, and it's an inclination for the teachers to maintain authority in the room. So it's like, hey, no doodling, don't be on your phone, raise your hand if you want to talk. And it really does crush many kids and even more older folks, as they progress through the ranks, like Bilal, it really does affect their ability to get into that flow state and to do the things that they like to do. And he calls it, oh man, what's the word? He talks about being in a rhythm and like this kind of like where kids kind of like I have a yoga ball, I bounce, kids hum, all of these frequency modulation that people do to like calm themselves actually helps do things in the body. Like, cats purr at the frequency that builds bone density. Not a lot of people know that. That's why they have 9 lives, why they're so strong. But humming can do the same thing, can affect changes in the body. And so does, whistling. There's a whole book. There's a whole industry on the power of whistling, by the way, like, and humming. Like, you should check it out. It's actually very fascinating. But so I think it's very interesting that you have picked up on that. And I think people ought to look that up for themselves to see if do they do those things, and you shouldn't be ashamed. You should actually embrace it, as a function,
Absolutely. If you think about it, everything you do is so that you'll be happier. You want more money so you can take your family on vacation, so you can do XYZ, so you can be happier. At the end of that whole conversation of why am I doing XYZ, it's so I can be happier. And if you think about flow state, that is the epitome of representing a happy moment. And we're not trying to be happy every minute that you're awake, but you want to be able to understand what puts you in flow state. What do you care about? Because it's different for every individual. And what, things like Prince, my favorite artist, once said, he would no sooner go a day without breathing than he would go without playing music. And, identifying what that certain music thing or whatever it is for you is, I think that's something that should be in education. And we're not teaching that. We're drilling times tables, we're drilling memorization, we're drilling some, other basic things that, yes, you have to do that. But in addition to that, I think, the world deserves to have some folks who've thought about what will truly make them happy. And I thought about it before they get, 45 and miserable in a job with a big giant mortgage and this and that. So I'm hoping to impact my college students by giving them that challenge to really just, take a pause and think about the times the same question you just asked Bilal, the times that you are in a flow state, what has happened? What's going on with you? How do you stay there? How do you get there? What elements should truly be in your life that bring you that much joy?
Yeah, and I do want to, for me, it was helpful to know the difference between happiness and joy. And I didn't know this until 2 years ago when I had a gentleman named Rich Sheridan on one of the other shows that I ran for Department of Defense Venture Capital Fellowship. And he came on, and this guy, one of the most unbelievable human beings I ever met. I actually have his book pulled up on Amazon called The Chief Joy Officer. That's literally his title. And he talks about the difference in joy and happiness, and that, happiness is fleeting and you always have to chase it, where joy is a mental state that you're in. And sort of like a lifestyle, like healthy is being healthy and being fit and being well is like a lifestyle, it takes everything. And so I do want folks, if they're listening, to seek, answers in what is joy and what is happiness for them, because it is different for everybody, like it ought to be, because that's what makes our species awesome,
So true. Happiness is quite conditional. Many times, you're happy because everything's going well, and then you're supposed to be on that bit of a roller coaster, because that's how you grow, that's how you contribute, that's how you want to jump to the next level. And joy is it's, in my opinion anyway, joy is just a choice of conditioning. Like, just like you choose, I'm going to be a healthy person, I am just a joyful person because the options don't make any sense to me. it's not that nothing bad has ever happened to me. It's that, there's no reason to be miserable about what's happening to you, because you get to choose that factor. So joy is just, that's where I live. Because I think that there's ups and downs with everything, but there's a perspective to everything. To every down has another perspective. So that's the challenge, is to find the perspective that brings you growth, that brings you ultimate happiness, down, and not happiness in the moment, but ultimate. When you average all your moments, are you more happy than not? When you average, that's where bliss and joy come in.
So, Bilal, does practicing medicine, the thought of it, make you happy?
Whoa, hitting the heavy questions, are we? Yeah, it does.
Does it create joy?
It does. I mean, we kind of hinted at it a few episodes ago, what would you die before you let happen? And your comment to me was something along the lines of, I would ensure that I do everything in my power to make sure that the people who are most vulnerable get the care that they need, right? And so when I think about what sort of a person I am, what sort of a legacy I want to leave, what sort of a contribution I want to make to society, that is the contribution that I have in mind. And so knowing that that's in the future does bring me a lot of joy. And now I said that's in the future because right now I'm just cranking out a bunch of tests where I have to learn details that honestly don't matter clinically. Some of the things we learn are actually just fun facts that you have to know for a test, otherwise you don't pass. It's not fun. But you think about, the long term, because the things in the short term are struggles that you're willing to overcome in order to get to that point, right? It's not that I enjoy every part of this, right? But I'm willing to accept those struggles. Whereas if I have a goal at the end that I don't like, right? All those struggles that happen on the way to reach that goal are going to feel a lot more pronounced. So if 90% of it is fun and 10% of it is struggle, and we have two goals, goal A, goal B. Goal A is what I want to do, goal B is what I do not want to do. The 10% on the path to goal A, I mean, it's not going to be fun, but I'll manage. That 10% for goal B, it's going to feel like 40, 50%. And it's going to feel like, oh my God, half the time I'm struggling, when in reality, you're only struggling 10% of the time. The reason it feels like that is because maybe that's not what you want to do in life. The people who really enjoy what they do, they accept the goods and the bads. And I think that's kind of the magic. It's the journey, not the destination. Very, very cliche, but I think that has to be said.
Yeah, I think people can go their whole lives without understanding the difference between the journey and the destination. And I will tell you, even me, I sometimes I will get mixed up and I have to calibrate myself. So 100% valid.
I think what you value makes a difference too. Like I went on a cruise and I was not a happy camper because that didn't, beaches, lying around, that doesn't make me happy. What makes me happy is fulfillment and accomplishment and knowing that I'm there for somebody who needs me. I just took a call from a kid trying to decide if she's going to go teach in Dubai or not. And really just, helping people it's just so fulfilling. And in this particular space where, everyone who gets this far in college has an amazing contribution to make to the world. So, if they're discouraged by a mean old faculty member or somebody with having a bad day, I want to be there to undiscourage them and have them stand in their own, like you guys do, stand in their own light and understand that they are in control and they're creating their reality. And it's just the best time to be alive at that, that age, to be able to focus and bring real things to life and do what you want to do.
Yeah, the sky's the limit. So one last one, we have to go here in a couple minutes, but one of the most powerful books for my life and writing the ship for my life was Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning. Have either of you heard of that book? by chance, April?
Yeah, absolutely.
You're an older
Yeah,
gal,
that's a
so
classic.
yeah. So Viktor Frankl is probably the most famous Holocaust survivor of like all time, and he wrote this book on his observations there. And basically, it was just like, the people who felt like they were on a mission and were happy inside of themselves were the ones that survived, and it was very clear to him. And people who complained or whatever, they didn't survive. And I remember just being in college reading this and going, I don't want to survive. I want to survive. I don't want to complain. Like, I want to be around. And like, it was so potent. So I want to maybe ask you guys the difference between joy and happiness and meaning. And if there is a difference, then how do I know that, how do I know the difference in where I'm at?
You want to go first, Bilal, or you?
I have to think about that.
Okay. Well, for me, meaning is again, as you get older, you find that your experiences, you get to sort them. You get to sort what's brought you comfort, what's brought you joy, what's brought you pain, what's brought you anger. And as you look back, you assign meaning. So meaning is not something that's static. Meaning is something that changes with your age and changes with who you're talking to and changes with, people think memory is in stone and meaning is in stone, but there's really nothing about our vibrational physical selves that are locked in stone like that. We can, and they've done studies on this where actually after 9/11, they asked survivors, what did you remember? And then they repeat the same question with the same people a year later, totally different story. The next year, totally different story. And so meaning is very fleeting. And I think what really holds water is what you value. And what you identify. So like Ken, again, you are an elite athlete. That's clear. That's how you identify. And what you care about, it reflects that. Like you don't have your face in the brownie pan because you are an elite athlete. So I think that's really where the joy and the happiness comes in when you know who you are, when you have your identity that is not defined by someone else, that is defined by you reflecting on what your memories, fleeting as they are, what brings you joy, what brings you happiness. They say if somebody tries to take me shoe shopping, I'm miserable. Somebody takes somebody else shoe shopping, they think it's the best thing in the world. So it's a very personal, I think it's a personal endeavor, but it's definitely worth the work of finding out what brings you joy.
Yeah, I'm like that with like watching any type of television, movies, or sitting in meetings. It just drives me crazy. Like there's so much other things to do. But that's just me. Nothing against what anybody else does.
Yeah, you said it perfectly. So I have nothing to add. That's it. That's really it. I mean, any thought that I had, you said it perfectly. So I don't know what else to say.
I think meaning for me too, and how I coach some people is that it's a recognition that you have a duty to do something here. And your search for meaning is like your identity and how it differs from everyone else, but how it complements everyone else. And I find the people who have a meaning to their life sort of have like a duty. They feel like they're obligated to do this thing, and they derive joy, happiness from it because they feel like they have been put here for that purpose. And I think some people may resonate with that one as well. But for me, that keeps me driving, especially when I have to wake up 4:00 in the morning. I have to do this thing. And it just starts to like, where I'm just like, I don't know if I can do this anymore. And it's like, whoa, I have to like keep going on because there's, XYZ won't happen if I don't do this thing. But just thoughts on that, and then we'll tell everyone good night. Anybody?
Well, yeah, I wholeheartedly agree with you on that front. For the sake of meaning in that aspect, I think if people would just let go of that, they would have a lot more happiness. And that happiness would lead to joy, because the world is not broken. And I think people tend to think, I need to find a purpose. I need to fix the world. I need to do this. I need to save all the trees. I need to save it. I need to stop every war. And I wish people would just let that go and look at their own life and say, what will make me feel accomplished? What will make me feel good? What thought feels better than the thought I had before this last one? And really take it personally, rather than trying to take a big giant global aspect of, I need to find the meaning of my life or I have failed in this endeavor. And I think, particularly religions, I'm not very religious. I think they tend to put a lot of unneeded pressure on people on in that aspect. We don't have to be Mother Teresa to be doing living a good life, to being a good Samaritan, as it's called. And I think that, Bilal's going to be the best doctor he's ever could be. And that's his drive. That's what he's meant to be doing. And if that changes, he's going to switch. I have a cousin who started with a fireman's career, and now he's a nurse, and he's the happiest. He put 30 years into the fire department in San Francisco. Then he went to nursing school. So, I think people think, especially college kids, they think, I've got to pick one thing for the rest of my life, and my meaning is derived from what I pick and how I serve. And I want people to, if they were listening to me, I would say, don't try to serve, just do what feels right to you, and you will be serving. No matter, it's going to come. It's not your serving might be, you're an artist and you create an image that inspires the next generation of artists. I think it's very very personal, and people tend to put too much pressure on themselves on that front. But that's just me.
Very necessary statement, because I know that I am susceptible to that. So I really appreciate you making sure that people understand that, and reminding me as well, of course.
Yeah, I think this topic reminded me of a video I watched. It took me a while. I finally remembered what it was. It was a Dr. K video. Again, Healthy Gamer GG. If you know that YouTube channel, very great. You should watch it. There was a video where he talked about how, what you do in life may change, but it doesn't necessarily reflect radical changes in you. And what I mean by that is, a lot of the things that you do in life are usually an amalgamation of the things you've done in the past. I mean, easy example, we can look at Ken here, who's done all kinds of OCRs and just amazing physical prowess, but also comes from a gaming background and a military background. And then here we are at WarriorGMR. Now, WarriorGMR isn't necessarily a different thing. It's just different combinations of the same thing. It's reflective of your total experiences. And in the same way, for me, my experience within understanding and growing up with esports, as well as my interest in health, has also led me to WarriorGMR. Again, not different, but just a different combination of the same thing. Sometimes those combinations can lead you to different areas, in which case you're like, well, how did I get from here to here? But there's still that path, right? It's not a broken path. It is a continuous path. It just might look straight, or it might look a little bit curvy, but it doesn't matter. So at the end of the day, we look at the totality of our experiences. And then, as April says, focus on the things that provide us joy, provide us meaning. And then over time, that's going to lead us to where we're going to be most happy.
Well said. Well said.
Yeah. And with that, we will conclude the show. And we want to thank everyone for tuning in, and all of the new folks who tune in. Welcome. Go back if you can, pick a couple, but definitely subscribe and follow us on social. WarriorGMR. You can Google it. WarriorGMR Foundation. You can find us all over the place. And with that, have a fantastic time, and we'll see you next week.
Awesome. Have a great night. Thank you guys. That was fun. You guys are always fun.